Have you ever wanted to go on a heartfelt journey in the lives of your loved ones and newfound acquaintances? Do you enjoy listening and engaging in uplifting discussions that leave you motivated and inspired to take action in your own life? This podcast is a space where we have in-depth conversations on family, health, spirituality, entrepreneurship, and well, just plain old life. I'm Jesse De Leon, and this is my passion. Join me on a walk into the fascinating narratives and meaningful conversations that shape our experiences. Welcome to The Knowing, a Life and Stories podcast. Hello, I'm Jesse De Leon. Welcome back to The Knowing, a Life and Stories. Happy to be here with you, and I'm glad that you're here with me. You know, I was sitting on my sofa last night meditating on what I wanted to talk about. And the word that came to my mind was temperance. And I thought, wow. And I just went with with temperance. And then the word that the thought that came after that was, just because we can doesn't mean we ought to. And honestly, I was like, I had to jump up and go get my notepad to jot that down, because it's moments like that that we're inspired. When the importance of meditation and journaling is so that we can capture the ideas that are coming into our thoughts and remember them. And it doesn't matter whether you're old or young. We've been encouraged to journal even as a young person, right? So that we can reflect back years later. Well, I just jumped up and had to write that down. That was what came to me. Just because we can doesn't mean we ought to. I want to read two different definitions for you from the dictionary about what temperance, how they define temperance. One is abstinence from alcoholic drinks. Okay. Abstinence from alcoholic drinks. The second one is the quality of moderation of self-restraint. Okay. Those are the two that came up in that one. Now I'm going to read you another definition from the biblical term of it, right? So here's what it says from the biblical standpoint. Temperance refers to self-control, restraint, and moderation in areas of life, including desires, appetites, thoughts, words, and actions. It continues and goes on from there. I will encourage you to look that up and do a little more digging. And because, there's in my conversations this week with friends and family, I listen a lot, and I'm trying to understand where they are, and because I'm hoping that it can be a reference point for me, because there is a lot that has been in my mind, in my thoughts about life and where I was and where I am now and where I'm going to go. We're not promised tomorrow. We don't know what the future is. And the beauty in that is that we ought not try to figure out what's coming, because oftentimes that's what brings on the fear and it paralyzes us. And I think the past several months, I have been in that kind of state of mind where, it's a summertime, and in summertime, the service industry slows down, whether it be restaurants, spas, my profession, the hair business slows down, because particularly here in New Orleans, it gets really hot and people want to escape the heat. So this is the time that people go away for weeks, months on end until the end of the summer. So I don't see a lot of my clients and my friends in that time. So it kind of, when you have that extra time on your hands, we tend to kind of think about the past and wonder what's coming in the future, because things kind of seem a little bit out of our control, and we're not meant to be in control over our lives, our situations, our environment. All we can do is do our best to take care of ourselves and try to live the life that we're meant to live. now, right? So when I think about what the definition spoke of about moderation, restraint, that's another word that comes up a lot. Moderation, everything in moderation, right? Whether we're drinking alcohol, whether we're drinking sodas, because of the sugar content and that, and what sugar does to our levels of energy and the ebbs and flows of when we have the highs and the lows. Eating comes to mind as well. Like overeating possibly, or eating the foods that are not so healthy for us. Shopping, a lot of times, that is an outlet for people. I know that it has been for me, and it has been for, my family members and friends. And exercise, right? Even exercise, we ought to practice moderation. So I'm going to go through uh, uh, these things that I just named. I don't want to name another one that kind of might seem controversial, but sex, right? Even sex in moderation, right? And so I don't know if people could call in right now, that I don't know what they would be saying to me about that. Like, well, I enjoy it so much, or I want it and I need it, and so, but again, it's intemperance, right? In moderation. So I want to talk about drinking. I haven't been really completely honest with you. The couple of episodes ago, and even maybe the last one, I talk about nutrition, things that I eat, my exercise regime, my meal prepping for the week, and how that's helped me to not have those hypoglycemic moments where I get hangry and I get headachy, and I get disoriented a little bit. It gets really bad for me. And so when I, discovered when I was told that I needed to eat more because I was in a calorie deficit and I didn't know it, I just kept thinking, well, as I get older, I want to stay lean and I want to be muscular but lean, and I just still wasn't reaching my goals. And so I just want to be honest that all that we're hearing a lot about on social media is alcohol consumption. And the do's and the don'ts, but mostly the don'ts right now, and how it affects our weight training, how it affects our mind in terms of brain fog, how it affects like for me, if I have a glass of wine or two, or an old fashioned, I wake up the next morning. Not only do I have brain fog, I feel a little bit kind of a little bit off kilter when I get out of bed. And I notice that I have more floaters in my eyes that I see versus on days when I didn't drink the night before. Right. So that's one of the things that alcohol does for me, drinking alcohol does for me. And it also prevents me from reaching my goal. And this is the part I wasn't quite honest with you about. When I said that my waistline had increased from 30 to 32, 31, 32, I do believe that part of that is that I'm doing a lot of ab work, 3 times a week, where I used to only do one once a week, because a really great trainer, told me once, Jesse, the reason that your waistline's growing is because you're doing too many abs and you need to cut that back. You're doing enough with abs when you're lifting weights and, in your leg routines and your upper body workout. You're using your core. So it's building the ab muscles and the core strength. I drink about 2 glasses of wine every night. And my last physical a year ago, I asked my doctor, my internist, if it was okay that I had, 2 glasses of wine. And sometimes on the weekends, I have 3. And he said, absolutely, it's fine for you to have the 2 glasses of wine. But it doesn't prevent me from feeling the things that I mentioned that I felt. But most of all, I have had trouble getting rid of that little last bit of body fat on my lower abs. And it just bothers me, right? It's for me. I mentioned before, I don't even take my shirt off most times. Like if I'm at the pool, at the beach, I will if I'm going to get in the water. But most of the times I don't want to do that. But it's just because it's my thing, my mindset. And so I believe that the reason my waistline has grown is also because of the alcohol consumption, even though it is 2 glasses of wine a night or a glass of wine in an old fashioned. So I just want to say that uh, it is important to moderate uh, our drinking because for me, the things I've mentioned and how it affects me, but also it affects my goal and the vision I have for myself and how I want to age and how I want to look, and most importantly, how I want to be healthy, because alcoholism does run in my family, and I want to be very careful about that. Eating. So eating, how can we moderate our eating? Well, eating, we're talking all about like clean eating, natural whole foods, a balanced diet. And a lot of times, we used to think with all the diets that we had in the past that it's going to be boring. It's going to not taste good. Well, now we know it doesn't have to be boring. And there's so many options and variations of meals that we can prepare. And it doesn't have to seem daunting to us. And I find that, if I mix it up a little bit, as I mentioned in episodes past, that, I'll have a piece of salmon, I'll have a steak, I'll have ground beef mixed with ground turkey or ground chicken. I just enjoy those, and it can be tasty based on the kind of herbs and spices that you put in. It doesn't have to be dull. It doesn't have to be tasteless, but it is important to moderate what we eat, whether we're eating too little or too much. And so if we can find a balance, like I've been able to find, I know I mentioned that I eat, try to eat 5 meals a day, small meals, and, kind of varied out between like 2 to 2.5 hours. Well, I haven't been able to meet that goal. I just can't eat that much. I'm not used to eating that much. But I do have to remind myself how important it is for me to eat, because as I mentioned before, I no longer get hangry. I no longer get these episodes of hypoglycemic, moments. And I can drive past Cane's, Cane's, Wendy's, Burger King. I can drive past that and not even desire to pull in. And it's mainly because of how I've learned to moderate my food by eating more meals. And moderation doesn't have to mean a negative, guys. I just want to mention that really quickly. It doesn't have to mean negative or a bad thing. Moderation can just be how we look at things in a smart way. So because I'm eating more small meals, I'm eating more clean, I'm eating more healthy, more whole foods, and I'm getting my fill, and I'm enjoying what I eat. And yes, do I want an ice cream? I mentioned Haagen-Dazs butter pecan is my favorite. Well, yes, and I can do that. I do it once a week, not always, but when I feel like I'm craving it, I'm going to eat it. Same goes for a burger or pizza or French fries. I want to enjoy my life, and I might not be here tomorrow, but I want to be healthy, make healthy choices, and moderate how little I eat to how much I eat. That's really important. Okay, shopping. What happens in how can we moderate shopping, and why is that important? Well, I know for myself, when I had when my business was busier and I had this disposable income, I found that I found that when I was alone, I would I didn't really like being alone, so I would just get dressed and go to the shops and meet up with my salespeople that were always so kind and helpful and would always offer, a glass of water or a glass of champagne while you're shopping. It made the experience fun and exciting. And for that moment while I was there, I felt alive. I felt special. I felt like wanted, needed, and it filled that void that I was feeling when I was alone. And I found myself doing that often, whether I was feeling lonely or a little depression, or even when I was angry, I would take it out on my wallet. And I just want to encourage you who are listening, think about why it is that in moments of sadness, anger, depression, loneliness, uh, we we tend to want uh, to spend money in excess, or eat in excess, or drink in excess. I think for me, it's important to try to balance out, why is it that we're feeling this way? And is it really what I want? Is it really going to be fulfillment? Because guys, I can tell you, when I've overeaten, when I've had too much to drink, when I've gone shopping, and I've come back home, the high is gone. I'm left there with the shopping bags. I'm left there with a plate that's completely empty, and I'm feeling completely stuffed and overwhelmed. And what does that do for me? It brings me shame. I start feeling ashamed, and I start feeling guilty that I did it again. Right. And I don't want to feel that way. And the more that I find myself focused, like trying to temper myself, I find that I'm actually happier, because I find that I no longer look for the high that I look for in going out shopping, eating, uh, over drinking, even over exercising. Right. I mean, there was a time last year I did uh, 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 this game with myself. I'm going to defy all that's been said about how important it is to have your rest days. There again, that brings moderation. That's temperance, right? Why is it important that when we exercise, it's important to have our rest days? Because even too much exercise is not good for one. Okay. We can become obsessed with exercise for the wrong reasons. And the reason it's important to have your rest days is because the body needs time to rebuild. Every time we exercise and lift weights and strength training, resistance training, we're tearing our muscle, right? And that's how muscle grows. Well, that muscle that's being torn, it needs at least 24 hours to rest. So a year ago, I didn't rest. I worked full body every day, full body with the weight training every day. And I would do my running and my cycling and my rowing. And I was sitting at a dinner event across from an internist. And he was about 10 years younger than I am. And he said, what do you do to stay in that kind of shape? And his wife said, yeah, I want to know. And I said, well, I work out every day, and I try to eat really healthy and really clean. And he said, wow, you're defying the odds. You're defying what we're told that we shouldn't do or ought not do. Well, I'm not going to say it's not okay to do that. You can work out every day in strength training, as long as you're not working the same muscle every day. That muscle which we worked out has to have a day of rest. So now this year, I've been doing the day of rest. I work out with weights Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then I do my hit sessions through cycling, rowing, and any like jump roping, even running or great walks. That's also a great form of exercise, but it all has to be done in moderation. And my sister used to say, Jesse, you're obsessed. And I would get upset with her, because I would say, okay, if I don't work out, I'm not working out enough. If I'm working out, I'm working out too much. I mean, what is going to make you happy? And it's just because she cared, right? She saw that I was not practicing temperance. And lastly, about this, I want to talk about sex. Oftentimes I hear couples that talk to me in the chair, or friends that say either the partner, the wife, the husband, the there one wants more sex than the other. One wants to rest and maybe once a week, 2 times a week, 3 times a week. The other one wants it 2 or 3 times a day. I mean, I think that I'm not going to say it's not normal, because it's normal for whomever the experience is for, right? But I think that even in those moments, when it comes to sexual intercourse, that it's good to practice temperance because it builds on the love and the desire that we want to share with that special someone. That and it's important to respect that your partner might not want it as much or may want it more. I think it's really good to have that conversation and to be open and to discussing. That's really, really important. And in closing, I want to say that I want to remind us that why not, instead of just because we can, doesn't mean we ought to. How about just because we can, we ought to? I want to leave you with that thought. And I also want to say one other thing. Everything is always, I heard this wonderful quote from a neuroscientist that I follow. And my mind went blank. I couldn't remember his name or his Instagram page, but I do want to share what he said a couple of days ago. Everything is always working out for me. Okay. What was he meaning by this? It's so easy to get negative and to be to complain, and it's all right to share and to vent, but we have to be careful. There's a fine line between sharing, venting, and complaining. And when we complain, when we say negative things, our mind is saying that to our brain, and then the brain starts to believe it. So how easy it is, and how much better would it be if we just changed the negative narrative and the complaining to just a positive word to ourselves. So I'm going to give you this positive word, and I want you to write it down. I've written it down. It's on my coffee table. It's on my dining table. It's in my medicine cabinet. As soon as I opened the door, I taped it to it because it made sense to me. Here it goes one more time. Everything is always working out for me. With that, I want to say I love you guys. Thank you for listening. Please continue to keep me in your prayers, and I will continue to keep you in my prayers. Until next time, thank you.